They dragged us out like livestock, bound, barefoot, under a merciless sun. On that burning stage, I stood tall, not for pride, but for my sisters. Three girls, $15, the auctioneer barked. A crowd jeered. Then he stepped forward. Rhett Carver, eyes cold, boots gleaming like sin. He bought us, but I swore we'd break free or burn it all down. Not for pride, not for defiance, for my sisters, one on each side, trembling, silent. And me, the oldest, Adelina, the one who would not break first. Three girls, $15, the auctioneer barked, voice hoarse from shouting over a restless crowd. All strong, unspoiled, package deal. Someone laughed. Another man spat at the dirt. The sun beat down like judgment. In the smell, dust, sweat, desperation clung to everything. Then he stepped forward, boots polished like mirrors, spurs glinting like they were forged from gold, eyes hidden under a white hat too clean for this place. He didn't speak right away, just looked at us like we were fence posts he might repurpose. His name rippled through the crowd like a dry wind. Rhett Carver. 15, he said flatly, voice like gravel soaked in whiskey. The crowd erupted in low murmurs. Someone hissed, $1 a girl? He's lost his mind. He didn't look at them, didn't look at anyone but us. I met his gaze. Just for a moment. Long enough to know two things. He wasn't drunk and he wasn't stupid. This man didn't buy things he didn't plan to use. The auctioneer banged his gavel. Sold. The rope tugged at our wrists as his men stepped up. One grabbed Lena, the youngest, just 17, still soft in the face, still hopeful behind the eyes. She whimpered. Not loud, not pathetic, just enough to shatter something inside me. Don't touch her, I said. The man blinked at me, surprised I could speak. Rhett turned his head slightly. I saw a flicker in his face, something close to amusement, but he didn't stop them. Just turned and walked back to his horse like the business was done. They threw us onto the back of a wagon like feed sacks. Myra, the middle sister, didn't say a word. She never did in public. She pressed her back to the wagon boards and stared at the men loading rifles behind us. Not with fear, with calculation. That was her way. Lena clutched my hand. Hers was shaking. I squeezed back. Stay quiet, I whispered. Watch everything. The wheels creaked as we rolled out of Socorro, leaving behind the shouting crowd. The dust-choked market, the scorched wooden stage where we'd been bought for less than the price of a good saddle. That night, we camped by the edge of a dry riverbed. The sky overhead was cruel and cloudless. Rhett's men drank, laughed, talked about us like we weren't 10 feet away. I counted 5 guards, 1 rifle each, 1 knife, 1 loose saddlebag. I didn't sleep. Neither did Mayra. Lena did. She curled into me and mumbled in her sleep, something about Mama's hands. I swallowed the lump in my throat and stared at the stars. I hated them for shining. In the morning, Rhett spoke to me for the first time. You speak well for a slave. I wasn't born one. He looked at me like that was a funny thing to say. Then he mounted his horse and didn't speak again for the rest of the day. The ride into the valley took 2 more days. By the time we arrived, our lips were cracked and Lena's feet bled through her socks. The land around the ranch stretched flat and mean. The only green came from the wind-twisted cottonwoods near the fence line. His house stood in the middle like a king's tomb, 2 stories of whitewashed stone, iron bars on the windows, a wraparound porch that looked more like a watchtower than somewhere to rest. The gates creaked shut behind us. I felt it like a closing jaw. They let us inside, past dark hallways and locked doors, then down, always down, until we reached a cellar cold enough to make Lena shiver. There were 3 cans, a tin bucket in the corner, a single bare bulb overhead. This is where you'll stay, one man grunted, tossing us a crust of bread and a jug of water. Master Carver don't like noise. He slammed the door. The lock clicked. Silence, free. Lena sat on the floor, wrapping her arms around her knees. Myra walked the perimeter, fingertips tracing every crack in the wall. I leaned back against the door, every muscle taut, every nerve humming. We had been bought, labeled, caged. But the war hadn't even started yet. The heat in the valley didn't just sting, it sank into your bones. Everything out here was dry, cruel, and stretched out too wide. Even the silence felt heavy, like the land itself wanted you to kneel. Rhett Carver's ranch sat at the center of it all, a beast made of stone and shadow. It didn't look like a home, it looked like a threat. 2 levels of sun-bleached rock, a roof that sloped like a blade, and fences that sprawled for miles. From the outside, it might have passed for a government fort, but there were no flags, just guards with rifles and eyes that didn't blink enough. They made us walk the last 100 feet in the dirt, a statement. Behind the main house were a series of smaller structures, sheds, barns, a smokehouse, and a holding pen. I saw girls, maybe 6, all older than Lena, all with faces that looked drained of story. They didn't speak, didn't wave, just stood barefoot in the sun, like ghosts too tired to haunt anything. The guards opened the cellar again, same place, same cot, same bucket. But this time the door didn't lock. We weren't alone anymore. 2 other girls were there. One sat on the edge of a cot, knees drawn to her chest. The other stood by the wall, back stiff. Neither of them looked at us. Neither spoke. Lena whispered, "Why's the door open?" Myra said, "Because we're not going anywhere." She was right. There were no windows, just one crooked vent near the ceiling. Maybe wide enough for a rat, maybe not, but I took note of it. That night, I crept up the stairs while the house slept, just enough to listen. I heard Rhett's voice in the parlor, talking to a man I didn't recognize. Something about shipment dates, cooperative stock, and Las Cruces by Friday. I didn't understand everything, but the tone was wrong, cold, organized, industrial. Not slavery like in old stories. This was business. I slipped back down, heart pounding. The next morning, Rhett came into the cellar himself. His boots hit the floor slow, deliberate. I stood, not to welcome him, just to meet him eye to eye. "Which of you is the clever one?" he asked. No one answered. He looked at Myra. She didn't flinch. Then at Lena. She looked at me. "I asked a question," he said. I stepped forward. He smiled, faint. "I thought so." He dropped something on the floor. A book. Blank pages, leather cover, thin. "Keep track of things," he said. "You'll find it makes the time pass easier." Then he left. The door locked behind him. Lena picked up the book. "Why would he give us this?" Mayra took it from her, flipped through. "He wants to know how we think." I nodded. "Then we'll let him." That day I started writing. Not stories, not memories, inventory. Doors, guards, shifts, names, weapons. Every time we saw something, I logged it. The girl by the wall, her name was Esther. She was taken from Prescott. The other girl was Mira, barely 19, sold after her brother's gambling debt got too deep. They told me things in pieces, quietly, like it hurt to remember. That night, Lena asked me, "Do you think Mama's still alive?" I looked at her, so young, so breakable. "I don't know," I said, "but I know we are." Rhett didn't come back for 2 days. When he did, he brought more girls, 3 this time. One tried to run before the gate shut. They caught her and beat her in front of the others. Lena threw up after. I held her hair, whispering not to look. But Myra looked. She never turned away. Later, she said, "That's not punishment. That's instruction." The lesson was clear. This place eats rebellion for breakfast. But I'd tasted dirt before. I knew how to swallow rage and turn it into fuel. One night, as we lay in the dark, I whispered, "We're going to get out." Lena said nothing. Myra did. "When?" "Not yet." Myra rolled over. "Then don't give her hope unless you plan to back it up." I didn't reply, but I meant it. Every damn word. I would rather burn this whole valley than let it bury us. The third morning, the cellar door creaked open without warning. Rhett stood there, arms folded, a half smile on his lips. Behind him, the rising sun threw his silhouette across the stone floor like a shadow made of wire and bone. "Up," he said. "You've got work now." The guards herded us out with sharp gestures and the kind of silence that said they'd shoot before they'd shout. We were split into groups. Lena was taken to the laundry house. Myra and I were sent to the stables. I didn't like the separation. It wasn't just fear, it was instinct. We were stronger together. Three pieces of a whole. Break that, and they had a chance to slip in. Still, I didn't flinch. They couldn't know how much it hurt to be pulled away from my sisters. The stables smelled of hay, blood, and the kind of rot that stuck in your throat. I was handed a pitchfork and pointed toward the filth. One guard watched. The other leaned on a post, chewing on something that wasn't tobacco. "You know horses?" he asked. I didn't answer. He took a step forward. "You mute?" Still nothing. He spat. "Suit yourself." I cleaned in silence, eyes scanning everything, where the keys were hooked, how the latches opened, which horses kicked, and which stood quiet. Myra was 3 stalls down, working with a shovel, like she wanted to drive it through someone's skull. That night, back in the cellar, Lena was waiting. Her eyes were red, but she was still whole. "They made me scrub floors," she whispered. "One of the girls said the man in the red shirt touches them when he's drunk." Myra's hand clenched. "What did you do?" "I told him I didn't talk," Lena said. "And then I sang. Loud. Off key." I blinked. "You sang?" She nodded, wiping her nose. "He didn't like it." I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I didn't either. I just took her hand. Later, when the others were asleep, Myra whispered to me, "You see how many guards were posted at the barn?" 3. 1 inside, 2 at the gate. "Any patterns?" I hesitated. "Shift changes at noon and midnight." Myra nodded. She didn't praise. She just filed it away like a general. We started keeping track of everything. Not just guard movements, but food deliveries, new girls arriving, who came in and out of the big house. Myra found a loose stone in the cellar wall. We hid notes inside it, scraps of fabric, dirt drawings, names. Each time we learned something, we weren't scared. We were armed. Rhett came to the cellar once a week, just to look, never touched, never said more than a few words. He watched like he was trying to decide what kind of creatures we were, broken, wild, or dangerous. One night he caught me looking back. "You planning something, Miss Adelina?" he asked, voice smooth. "Learning," I said. He smirked. "Don't learn too much. Curiosity doesn't suit cattle." I stepped forward. "I'm not cattle." Silence stretched between us. Finally, he turned and walked away. When the door shut, Myra said, "You shouldn't poke the bear." "I'm not poking," I said. "I'm making him wonder." We weren't safe, not even close. But something had shifted. We weren't just surviving anymore. We were strategizing. That changes everything. Each night we whispered across the dark. Routes, escape paths, signals. Lena started drawing maps with charcoal on the back of her dress hem. Myra collected scrap metal from the stable, tucked sharp pieces in her boots. I bartered for information. A cup of water here, a favor there. Stories spread quickly among the girls, whispers of resistance, possibility. They didn't call me Adelina anymore. They called me the one who plans. But this wasn't just about escape. It was about reminding them, the guards, the buyers, Rhett himself, that we were not merchandise, not cattle, not property. We were people. And people, we remember. People fight back. The nights were colder in the valley than I expected. The desert heat vanished after sundown, leaving only bone-deep silence and the distant howl of coyotes. That silence became our cover, our ally. Our war room, while the other girls slept, too exhausted to dream, Myra and I worked. We didn't have paper, but we had memory. We had walls. We had a dress hem and a piece of charred wood stolen from the stove. Every creak in the floor above us, every footstep down the hall, we logged it. "This one," Myra whispered one night, tapping a rough square she'd etched in the corner of the stone wall. "This is the holding shed. 4 girls came out of it today, but they were limping. I think they've been tied up in there for days." She didn't say it out loud, but we both knew what that meant. Across the floor, Lena leaned against the cold wall, staring up at the ceiling vent. "They use the north gate when new men come. I counted 3 trucks this week." I looked at her, surprised. "You kept count?" She nodded once. "They always come after sunset. That's when they move people." Her voice was thin but steady. We marked it down. By the second week, we had a mental blueprint of the ranch. At least the parts we could see. The cellar, the main house, the stables, the long road that cut through the property like a scar, and most important of all, the blind spots. There weren't many, but there were some. The northeast fence line was warped, we noticed, slanted from a fallen tree that no one bothered to clear. The guard rotation thinned out between 1 and 2 a.m. One of them, the youngest, smoked near the shed during that time, his attention drifting. Weak links, loose threads. We took turns talking to the other girls. Carefully, quietly. Esther, the older girl from Prescott, was the first to listen. She'd been here almost a year, her face hollow, but her eyes still sharp. "No one escapes," she whispered to me one night. "They catch you, they hurt you, and then they make the others watch." "We won't get caught," I said. She studied me. "You really believe that?" "No," I said, "but I believe we have to try." She nodded once, and that was enough. Mira, the youngest after Lena, had once worked in the kitchen. She remembered where Rhett kept his papers. "Big drawer," she told Myra. "Left side, locked. But I think the key is on that silver chain he wears." Everything we learned, we turned into a step. Step 1, map the house. Step 2, identify the guard's shifts. Step 3, find the key. Step 4, open the ledger. Step 5, not just escape, expose them. It was Myra who pushed us past the idea of running. "If we leave," she said, "they'll just fill our place. More girls, more names, another auction, another $15. She wasn't wrong. But we weren't heroes, we weren't soldiers. We were 3 sisters with nothing but a half-burned map, a few stolen secrets, and a fire we hadn't yet dared to unleash. Still, we kept planning, kept writing in the dark. Then came the night Lena found the loose pipe. She was cleaning near the cellar drain when her hand brushed against the rusted metal. It shifted, hollow, just big enough to hide something inside. She looked at me. "If we had proof, we could send it." "Send it where?" "Anywhere," she said. "A town, a church, someone, anyone." Her hope scared me more than her despair ever had. Hope is dangerous, but it's also contagious. We stuffed the pipe with a note, wrapped tight in cloth, names, times, the map sketched in charcoal. Then we waited for the right moment to let it go. I kept watching Rhett. He still came down once a week, never long, never alone. But I noticed something new to him. He didn't always look sure of himself. His hands would linger near the stair rail, like he was weighing whether to speak. His eyes sometimes flicked to Lena, then away. One time he caught me watching. "You think you're smarter than me," he said. "No," I replied. "I think you're too smart to underestimate me." He didn't answer. But he didn't laugh either. When he turned to leave, his shoulders looked a little heavier. The next day, we found a new girl in the cellar. Barely 16, black eye, couldn't speak for hours, just curled into a corner and rocked herself. Lena sat with her, held her hand. I stood at the far wall, staring at the map scratched into the stone. This place wasn't a ranch, it was a machine. And machines can be broken if you hit the right gear. We weren't ready yet, not quite, but soon. And when we moved, we wouldn't be running, we'd be coming for blood. The invitation came on a Tuesday. Rhett didn't speak it himself. One of the guards delivered the message, half smirking, like it was some kind of joke. "You 3 are requested at the big house for dinner. Wear something clean. Don't speak unless spoken to." We weren't fools. A dinner like this wasn't kindness, it was theater. Still, we said nothing, just nodded, played dumb, played soft. That afternoon, the guards brought down dresses. Pale, simple things meant to look innocent. I helped Lena tie the back of hers. Her hands shook as she smoothed the skirt. "I don't want to go up there," she whispered. "I know," I said, "but we're not going to eat. We're going to take something." Mayra stood near the corner, slipping a shard of mirror into the hem of her sleeve. Her face was unreadable. "I'll get into the study," she said. "Wait minutes, that's all I need." "You'll get 3, I replied. "Don't take risks." She glanced at me. "What do you think this whole thing is?" They marched us to the house just after sunset. The dining room was lavish. Polished floors, long oak table, candles flickering in wrought iron sconces. Rhett sat at the head, a silver chain hanging from his collar. 4 other men surrounded him, all dressed too fine for this place. Businessmen, buyers, bastards. Their eyes crawled over us like ants. Rhett stood when we entered. "Gentlemen," he said, "our guests." We were positioned like trophies. Lena to his right, me beside her, Myra at the far end, closest to the hall. Plates were filled, toasts were made. The men laughed too loud, told stories too cruel. One bragged about shipping a girl in a feed barrel. Another talked about the time one tried to bite him. "Animals," he muttered, shaking his head. "No gratitude." I kept my face blank. My stomach churned. Then it began. Lena, sweet Lena, shifted in her chair and tipped her glass with a gasp. The red wine spilled across the tablecloth, soaking into the edge of Rhett's shirt. "I'm so sorry," she cried, flinching. The room froze. One man laughed. "Clumsy little thing." But Rhett didn't move, didn't shout, just stood up, slowly dabbing the stain with a napkin. "It's all right," he said, voice even. "Accidents happen." The others turned back to their food. In that moment, Mayra was gone. I watched the clock. 1 minute, 2. I passed the time asking questions with my eyes. Where was the chain? Still on Rhett's collar. Where was the guard in the hallway? Gone, thank God. Probably smoking. 3 minutes. Rhett sat down again, looked at me across the table. "Your sister has spirit," he said. "She has a name," I replied. He arched a brow. "Adelina." The way he said it, like he owned it, made me want to drive my fork into his hand. Instead, I smiled. "Names are dangerous," I said. "They make people remember you." 4 minutes. The door creaked. Myra returned, calm, composed. She slipped into her seat like she'd never left. No one noticed. Or maybe no one cared. Rhett leaned forward. "Tell me something, Miss Adelina. Do you think I'm a bad man?" The question was too smooth, too deliberate. I held his gaze. "I think you're a man who tells himself a lot of stories." He smirked. "And what story do you tell yourself, I wonder?" "That we'll leave here one day." The room went quiet. The men didn't understand what I meant. But Rhett did. I saw it in the twitch of his jaw. He stood. The others followed. Dinner was over. As they filed out, I felt Rhett's eyes on my back like a blade. Back in the cellar, Mayra pulled a folded sheet of paper from her waistband. Her hands were shaking. "It's all there," she whispered. "Routes, buyers, names, dozens of names. It's not just this place. It's a whole damn network." We circled around her, breath held. The paper was thin, smudged, but real. Lena touched the corner with reverence. "Now what?" I looked at the vent, at the rusted pipe still hidden behind the drain. "We send it out," I said, "and then we set the match. No more hiding, no more collecting." The plan wasn't just escape now, it was war. The night we moved, the air was still. Not quiet, still. Like the land was holding its breath, waiting to see if we'd survive the next few hours. Mayra had memorized the shift changes. Lena had memorized the path from the cellar to the tool shed. I had memorized everything else. We had one window. 1:15 a.m. The guards rotated at 1:30. There was a 15-minute lull between the two sets. One would leave their post, the next always late. We'd watched it happen for 6 nights straight. We waited until the last snore echoed through the cellar, until even the rats had gone silent. Then we moved. Mira, the younger girl, stayed behind. She was too sick, too weak. She pressed something into my palm as we left, her father's name, scribbled in pencil on a shred of burlap. "If you make it, tell him I didn't forget him." I nodded, couldn't speak, couldn't promise anything. But I took it. Lena slipped through the vent first, thin, quick. She'd greased her arms with lard from the kitchen. The space was barely wide enough, but she didn't make a sound. Mayra went next, then me. On the other side was the dry drainage ditch that ran past the stables. That was our tunnel, covered in weeds, half choked with sand. But it led straight to the outer wall. We moved low, fast, like animals that knew they were hunted. Everything was going smooth. Too smooth. Then I heard it. A boot, crunching too close behind. We froze. Myra's hand went to the blade she'd hidden in her dress seam. Lena pressed into the dirt. But the boot steps passed. Just a guard heading to the outhouse. Oblivious. We kept moving. We reached the shed. Inside, we found what we needed. Wire cutters, gloves, a coil of rope. We didn't have time to celebrate. Just grabbed everything and ran. The outer wall loomed in front of us. 10 feet of wood and rusted nails. But there, just as we'd hoped, was the warped section from the fallen tree. Myra clipped the fence. 1, 2, almost there. Then, hey! The shout cut through the night like a gunshot. Lights, footsteps. The whole damn ranch came alive in an instant. Run, I yelled. Lena burst through the gap first. I shoved Myra after her. But before I could follow, hands. Rough, grabbing my dress, dragging me back. I kicked, bit, screamed. Then I saw him, Rhett, standing in the shadows, not yelling, not ordering anyone, just watching. I saw confusion in his face and something worse, hesitation, like he hadn't expected us to actually try. 2 guards held me. Myra started to come back. No, I screamed. Go! Lena pulled her. They vanished into the trees. The last thing I saw was Myra's face, bleeding, furious, torn. They locked me in the cellar alone. For hours, no one came. No one spoke. I sat in the dark, shaking, replaying every second. I failed them. I let them go without me. But that was the plan, wasn't it? One escapes, one comes back. Always. Sometime near dawn, Rhett came down. No guards, no weapons. He stood at the door looking at me like he didn't know what to say. Like I'd done something wrong by not staying quiet. I met his eyes. Didn't flinch. You caught me, I said. What now? He looked tired, older. You could have just stayed, he said. You were safe here. I laughed, bitter, sharp. No one is safe in a cage. He didn't reply. Instead, he unlocked the door and left it open. I didn't move, not at first. That open door, it wasn't freedom. It was a question, a test, a riddle with blood on both ends. Rhett didn't wait for an answer. He walked back up the stairs like he hadn't just cracked open the world and left me to choose what to do with it. I stood. My legs were weak from the hours on stone, but I stood. I stepped to the door and touched the frame, half expecting it to snap shut like a trap. It didn't. There was no sound upstairs, no shouts, no boots, just wind whistling through the hallway and a faint creak from the porch outside. I climbed the stairs. Each one felt heavier than the last. When I reached the parlor, he was sitting in that high-backed chair near the fireplace, a glass in one hand, untouched. His hat lay on the floor beside him. He didn't look up. You left the door open, I said. I did. Why? He swirled the drink. I thought maybe you'd run. I stared at him. And if I had? He didn't smile. I wouldn't have stopped you. A long silence stretched between us. The fire crackled. I watched his face in the flicker. Less stone now, more skin. Tired skin, tired eyes. He finally looked at me. You know what I was before this? I don't care. He nodded. Good answer. But he told me anyway. New Orleans, 1879. I was 11. My mother sold me for $75 to a man who ran a riverboat brothel. Said it was the only way to keep our house from collapsing. I didn't interrupt. He taught me to take what I needed, to never ask for mercy, and when I was strong enough, I slit his throat and left. Took his gold, bought a horse, rode west. He set the glass down without drinking. I built this place so no one could ever put a collar on me again, but I guess all I did was put collars on others. I wanted to scream, to spit, and to call him a monster. But part of me, a very small, furious part, saw it. The cycle. The wound turned into a whip. You could have broken it, I said, voice flat. You could have built something else. I didn't know how, he said, until I saw you. The words landed like stones. I shook my head. Don't make this about me. He didn't flinch. I watched you carry your sisters. I watched you count guards when you thought no one noticed. I saw you look me in the eye when every other girl looked down. He stood now, slowly, like every movement cost something. You reminded me of the boy I used to be, the one who wanted out. I took a step back. You don't get to redeem yourself by seeing yourself in me. He nodded. No, I don't. Another beat of silence. The air between us buzzed, tight and sharp. Where are they? I asked. Gone, into the trees. Last I saw they were headed southeast, toward the border. Are you going to hunt them? No. Why not? He looked at me, and for the first time I saw it. Regret, raw and clawing at the edges. Because I don't want to be that man anymore. I crossed my arms, cold suddenly. Then prove it. How? I stepped closer. You built this network, this machine. You know the routes, the names, the buyers. Burn it. Tear it down. He exhaled. You're asking me to destroy everything I've built. No, I said. I'm asking you to finally build something that matters. He stared at the fire, his jaw clenched, and then he nodded. Just once, I left him there, the flames casting long shadows on the wall. I didn't trust him. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But something cracked that night. Not just in him. In me, too. This war, it wasn't just escape anymore. It was revenge. Justice. Mercy. All braided together and burning hot in my chest. I didn't know what waited for me beyond this valley, but I knew this. If we were going to break the chain, someone had to wield the hammer, and I had one in my hand. The storm came without thunder. No lightning, no rain, just heat, wind, and the kind of tension that makes animals scatter before they even understand why. Rhett kept his word. That morning he brought me to the study, alone. No guards, no warnings, just me, him, and the room where secrets had been stacked and cataloged like grain sacks. He unlocked a drawer in his desk and pulled out a thick black ledger, the spine cracked from years of use. He set it down between us. You know what this is, he said. I do. Names, dates, weights, selling prices, transport routes, codes in the margins that mapped out a network deeper and filthier than anything I had dared to imagine. Girls like Mira, like Lena, like me, sold, moved, forgotten. Rhett didn't speak as I flipping through. He just watched. I found one name that stopped my breath. Isabel Santoya, age 24. Status, returned, deceased. I remembered her. She was from El Paso. She fought too hard. They dragged her away after 2 days. We never saw her again. She was murdered, I said. Rhett didn't deny it. I closed the book. We burn it all. He nodded. Where? Here. We stacked the ledgers. Not just one. 4 volumes. Beneath them, maps, contracts, letters, handwritten lists, pages that crackled with ink and guilt. We took it to the fire pit behind the barn, hidden from the road but not from the skyway. I lit the match. Lena taught me that trick. Use a dry leaf as kindling. Burns hotter, faster. Like truth when you stop hiding it. The flame caught. Within seconds, the pit glowed. Papers curled and blackened, numbers turned to ash. The smoke rose thick and wild, filling the valley with the stink of burning history. Rhett stood back, silent. When the last page collapsed in on itself, I turned to him. Now the girls. He looked at me. You're not asking for much, are you? I'm not asking, I said. I'm telling you what comes next. He nodded, slowly. We moved fast. It started with the cellar, Mira first, then Esther, then the others. Word spread quickly. By nightfall, we had over 20 girls standing in the dark, barefoot, blinking like they'd just walked out of a nightmare. Lena found me near the supply shed. She ran to me like she hadn't breathed since we were separated. I caught her mid-step, held her so tight I thought her ribs might crack. You're okay, she whispered over and over. No, I said, but we're going to be. Mara appeared behind her, face bruised, eyes burning. We didn't hug, we didn't cry, we just looked at each other. That was enough. There were no speeches, no planning, no time. Rhett handed over the key to the stables. The horses were ready. I'll stay behind, he said. Why, Ree? I asked. To answer for it, he said. Someone should. I didn't say thank you. That would have been too easy. We moved like ghosts, a procession of girls, many limping, many silent, slipping into the trees. Some had never ridden a horse before. Some clung to each other in the saddle, but they followed. I rode at the front. Myra flanked me on one side, Lena on the other. Behind us, the ranch burned. The fire started in the bunkhouse. No one knows who lit it. Maybe Mira. Maybe one of the nameless ones who never got a chapter in anyone's story until now. The flames spread like a curse, devouring the place that had devoured so many lives. We didn't look back. Only once, near the tree line, I turned and saw Rhett standing in the blaze. Just a shadow now. No hat, no smile. Just a man watching everything he built turn to smoke. And maybe for once, it made him lighter. We rode all night. The wind chased us. The fire lit the sky behind us. And the girls? They didn't speak. But they didn't cry either. They were busy becoming survivors. The horses kicked up a storm of dust behind us, thick and choking, but none of us slowed down. The desert night was alive with heat and adrenaline, the kind that keeps your heart in your throat and your hand near the reins like salvation depends on it. Maybe it did. We rode southeast, toward the river, toward Mexico, toward the idea of something not shaped like barbed wire and locked doors. There were 23 of us now, 23 girls who had once been stock, cargo, head count. Now we were riders in the dark, dirt-streaked and flame-lit. Lena rode behind me. She gripped my waist tight. Her voice was barely above a breath. "Don't let go." "I won't," I said. "Not ever." Myra took lead for a stretch. Her eyes scanned everything, the ridgeline, the dips in the road, the stars above. She hadn't said a word since we left. But her silence wasn't fear. It was focus. She was already thinking 3 moves ahead, as always. We reached the tree line an hour before dawn. The heat hadn't broken. The land was still bone dry, and our horses were foaming at the mouth. We stopped by a dried creek bed. No fire, no talking. I checked the girls one by one. Scratches, cracked lips, a sprained wrist. But no one was lost. Not yet. Esther came to me. Her face was half shadow, her voice firm. "You think we're going to make it?" "I think we have to," I said. That was the only answer I had left. We pressed on. By mid-morning, the air shimmered like glass. The trail forked. Left was shorter, but exposed. Right dipped into the low hills, where we could hide but risk getting bogged down in rocks and heat stroke. I looked at Myra. She looked at me. "Right," we both said. We barely made it 2 miles before one of the horses went lame. It belonged to a girl named Sophie. She was 16, rail-thin, limping from a boot blister. She looked at me, tears in her eyes. "I'll walk." I nodded, dismounted. "So will I." Myra protested, but I shut her down with a glance. No more leaving anyone behind. So we walked. 3 miles, then 4. Our shadows stretched out like knives on the dust. Then, hooves, behind us, close. We spun, ready to fight, to run, to scatter. It was Rhett, alone. No gun in hand, no guards. Just him on a chestnut stallion, keeping distance. The girls froze. Some looked ready to bolt. "He's not chasing us," I said loud enough for everyone to hear. "He's riding with us." Mayra moved to block me. "He's the enemy." "Maybe," I said, "but he gave us the key. He let me out. He stood in the fire." Lena's voice cut in, softer but stronger than I'd ever heard it. "If he rides behind us, let him. If he rides next to us, watch him. But don't waste time fighting a ghost we already escaped." Mayra didn't like it, but she said nothing more. Rhett kept his distance. He didn't speak, didn't push. But when Sophie collapsed from heat, he gave up his canteen. When one of the girls nearly fell from her saddle, he caught her horse before it bolted. No words, just actions. By sundown, the trees thinned. We could smell water. Not clean water, but river water. Mud, salt, life. We were close. We made camp just beyond a rocky bluff, hidden from the west, facing the border. Everyone was quiet, exhausted, sore in every limb. I sat with Myra and Lena, the 3 of us pressed together under a makeshift blanket. Myra finally spoke. "You trust him?" "No," I said, "but I trust what he's done more than what he used to be." Lena rested her head on my shoulder. "We're almost there," she said. Not a question, a promise. And this time, I believed her. Behind us, Rhett stood watch alone, framed by starlight. Not chasing, just waiting. The sun rose like a blood-orange fireball, low and heavy over the horizon, turning the river into molten light. We stood at the edge of it, barefoot, sunburned, bruised, and stared at the last boundary between captivity and something that might one day feel like peace. The Rio Grande wasn't wide, but it felt endless. The current whispered of freedom, but also of risk. If we crossed, we'd be fugitives, aliens, survivors. And none of that guaranteed safety. But we had come too far for guarantees. We broke camp at dawn. No breakfast, no fire, just silence and sore muscles. Lena was the first to step into the shallows, holding her boots in one hand, gripping the horse's reins in the other. She didn't look back. She just waded forward like the river owed her something. Myra followed, then the others, one by one. I was the last. Rhett watched from the hill above, hat low over his eyes, still mounted. He hadn't said a word since the day before. Just followed, distant and strange, like a ghost that hadn't decided which side of the grave to settle on. I met his gaze one final time. He gave a nod. Not permission, not farewell, just acknowledgement. That was enough. I stepped into the river. The water shocked me with its cold. It clawed at my dress, pulled at my legs. But I kept going. The girls ahead of me reached the far side, climbing onto the muddy bank like newborn creatures blinking into the light. Halfway across, Lena turned. Her smile cracked through the dirt on her face like sunlight through stained glass. "We made it," she said. I couldn't answer. My throat was full. By the time I reached the other side, my legs shook. I fell to my knees in the mud, hands sinking into it like I was touching the earth for the first time. And maybe I was. 23 girls, soaked, shivering, alive. No one cheered. No one needed to. This wasn't a victory parade. It was survival. We walked for hours, finding shelter in the ruins of an old barn near the first town past the border. It had no roof, no doors, but it had walls, and that was enough for now. Over the next week, we rebuilt. Not the barn, us. We traded labor for bread. We earned enough coin to rent a back room from an old woman who didn't ask questions. We shared clothes. We took turns watching over Mira, who still shook in her sleep. We taught each other Spanish, songs, how to write our names again. And we told stories. Not the kind they forced on us. Not the ones in ledgers and invoices. Our stories. Lena painted a mural on the inside wall of the barn. It was crude, messy, but it showed 3 girls standing in a doorway made of fire. Behind them, shadows. In front, a field of stars. Mayra started keeping her own ledger, but hers wasn't filled with prices. It was filled with plans. Names of girls still out there. Places we'd heard rumors about. Smugglers to avoid. Helpers to seek. The beginning of a new network. This time for freedom. As for me, I wrote, every night, by candlelight. I wrote their names, their stories. I wrote the ones we lost and the ones we saved. I wrote until my hands cramped, because someone had to remember. Someone had to bear witness. One morning, a stranger arrived at the barn. A man, rough clothes, gentle eyes. He said he'd heard about a place where girls could come and be safe. Said he had 3 in a wagon out front. We took them in. That was the beginning. The ranch burned. Rhett disappeared. Some say he was killed by one of his own. Others say he rides south still, handing out maps instead of chains. I don't know what to believe. Perhaps he found a way to make a useful sacrifice. I only know this. We were bought for $15, but what we became, that's worth everything. If you're hearing this, if your chest is tight or your hands are shaking, it's because you know what it means to feel powerless. You know what it means to be caged. But listen to me. You are not broken. You are not less. You are not what they called you. You are fire. So burn their names from your skin. Cross your river and write your own ending. If this story meant something to you, share it. Not for us, for the ones still waiting on the other side.